And we welcome into noise11.com Mark Holden and the Holden Brothers travelling circus.
Good on you, Paul.
It's an absolute amazing story because when I actually went back and looked at the history of this,
yes,
we're going back 122 years to the family started basically in the entertainment business.
Well, they actually, the first generation that were my great-grandfather was also a farmer at the same time, so they were breaking out the land down in Geelong area, down there in St Leonard's on the Bellarine Peninsula, and they were farming, but they'd come up to town and hoof, do the vaudeville thing and play the piano and dance and then the next generation made the circus and made it full time for that family, which was 10 sons and 1 daughter, and all the sons played instruments. So it was right from the start. It was musical. It was music based, and my great grandfather was a piano player. I love that. I love the fact that he was a piano player. He sadly was a dancer. I can't claim that part of the heritage has gotten down to me, but I love the part about it that I love is that in those days when that family was travelling from St Leonard's all the way to Ceduna and back, they were going from village to village and bringing music, because that was before radio. It's hard to believe. It was before radio. There were no records of any kind, so the only way you could hear music was live. And so they would be coming from the city, and I'm guessing, I don't know, but they'd be bringing the tunes of the day, and they were bringing music to a community, as well as stories and acrobatics and all the rest of it. But I love the musical connection. To me, it's really meaningful.
How far did they travel back in the day?
They travelled west to Ceduna, which was Ceduna was in the middle of the Nullarbor. And so that was you can imagine in 1910, 1898, that was like a few miles a day over a period of a long time, and then they'd get to another village, and if there wasn't enough money in the village to support them from the circus, they'd go fishing, and so you got beautiful pictures of them, just going down to the local river or creek or whatever and fishing, and they were living off the land. Going through the 30s, they joined up with Ashton's Circus, and Ashton's are the oldest Australian circus, and they're still going, whereas the Holdens only lasted 3 generations, but the Ashtons have gone 9 generations. And in the 30s, it was not unusual for circus families just to meet up and go, let's go together. And so the Ashtons and the Holdens travelled, and they travelled all the way up the east coast and back of New South Wales and up into Queensland, and so it was big journeys in horse and wagons, and then in the 20s and beyond, the first automobiles and it was pioneering stuff. It really was.
You rediscovered a lot of this history through the Ashton family, didn't you?
I did. In the mid-90s, I put the call out. I was doing Bert Newton's show from LA, Good Morning Australia, and I put the call out and I said, I'm part of this family and I'd like to meet people. And Mick, is here, Mick and a whole bunch of them put together a reunion at the Holy Rosary Church in Kensington here in Melbourne. And I was working with the Hoff at the time in New York, and I flew from New York to Melbourne and met all these fantastic Holdens, because my dad left Melbourne after World War II, after serving in World War II with my mother, and they went to Adelaide, so he was disconnected from them. But I met them all at the Holy Rosary Church, and Marie Holden's got a leg up on the thing and has got a guitar and is banging out a song. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And then I met Mick and Dally and went back to their place that night, and we've formed this fantastic musical collaboration ever since. And I just felt like Mick was like a brother to me. I didn't know he'd been in the Mixtures, Billy T, Hot City Bump Band, all these fantastic Melbourne bands over from the 60s, and Dally's just this wonderful singer. And so we'd get together on a Tuesday night over at Roger Treble's place. Roger Treble is a beautiful guitarist, the late Roger Treble, and we'd sit there and just sing open a bottle of red, and just sing songs, and that's how the first collaboration started, and we did an album of Tex Morton songs, and then we love singing together. We just love singing together. There's just something about it that's special when we're together. And on this project, I've roped in my brother, I've roped in my son, my daughter sings, my wife's written one of the songs. So my son's mum plays bass on 3 of the tracks, and so it's been the contemporary family honouring the past family.
Well, the song that your wife wrote, If I Was Keith Richards, is...
yeah.
Now, you mentioned you opened the bottle of red and you do the song. You almost need the bottle of red there to get that one started, was it? How'd you come about that lyric?
No, well, I wanted everyone in my family who felt that they wanted to contribute to this project, to contribute to the project. And so I sort of put the message out for everyone, do something, please. Let's work together. I want to work together with you on music. And she said she wanted to sing. Well, I've heard her sing. And the clown wasn't having it. So she said, well, what can I do? And she knows the business. She said, I know where the money is. Let me write a song. I said, cool, you want to write a song? Write a song. Come up with an idea. And she came back with this idea, If I Was Keith Richards. And I went, oh my God, that is so good. And then she wrote the lyric, and it's a terrific lyric. It really is.
Yeah.
And so, that was her contribution. It's a fantastic contribution. She doesn't want to have the publishing go through my publishing company. She's setting up her own publishing company. Trust between husband and wife. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, she's not silly. She knows the money's in the publishing. Yeah. Flying was an amazing song with Dallas out there. And, what a voice.
What a voice. Dallas and I wrote that song together. It turned out beautifully. She has ended up singing a lot of the vocals. When we were first singing, I naturally hogged them. And so that was pre-cancer, and I had my full voice, and the 3 of us would find our place. But I'd written the songs for me, really. And then post-cancer, I discovered I really couldn't sing a lot of them. And so the beautiful thing was that Dallas just stood up and did them, and it was like they were meant for her. And that's really probably how it should have been all the way along the line. It just took cancer to make it happen, And so she stepped out front, and she's just fabulous. She's a natural. It's just a natural voice, And I hear she's done in a couple of our gigs. She's done Absolutely Everybody as well, and my God, she rocks that song.
Yeah.
She really does. And so it's been fantastic for Dally to stand up front and carry the vocals. And now Mick and I are fighting for the bass.
So what happens to the old 70s pop hits? Do they ever rear their head these days?
They do. I find it hard to sing them. I can sing Never Gonna Fall in Love Again now. I've figured out a way to sing Never Gonna Fall in Love Again. I can do that. I can do I Want to Make You My Lady pretty poorly, but I can't do the key changes or anything. I just have no range. Where I speak is where I sing now, so it's just there. Whereas in the past, when I wrote Absolutely Everybody, and when I was writing my R&B stuff in America, I'd write in a falsetto, and I had a beautiful falsetto, and plus I had a big full voice as well. I could really sing a full voice, but I just don't have it. I'm just down in this bottom area here. But I found ways. There's a few songs on the album like Travel by Train and Little Miss Methadone that were that this new voice kind of suits. So it's cool. I just sing less, and Dallas stands up and carries the band, and she's a beautiful girl. She's a Holden. She's a gorgeous Holden, and she's got that musicality in her. She's just a musical soul. And I think that's why Flying turned out so well too. It's just she's got a beautiful musical soul, and that's what I was tapping into. And Flying also, my daughter sings on for the first time, and she's never sung before. I guess because of Idol and everything, she sort of was intimidated, and sort of backed off, and she focused on ballet and dance. But I could hear her in the car, when they're young and you're driving around, you can hear them sing along with the radio. I could hear that she could sing. but she just never felt comfortable about it. So on this record, I said, "Come on, will you? You know, I want you to sing. You know, I want you to properly sing." And she totally embraced it. And I didn't produce the session. Naomi Ayres produced the session, who's Steve Scanlon's partner, and she's a great vocal teacher and coach. And she's, you know, Katie knows her and feels comfortable with her. So I let Naomi do that session rather than, you know, be a dad-daughter thing. But I needn't have worried because she just stood there and sang, and it was just it was effortless for her. And I think she's, you know, delighted now to have taken part in it. And the same thing when we made the video. Dallas and Katie in Flying are just beautiful. They're just both natural, gorgeous girls. And Dally was 8 months pregnant at the time as well, with her second son.
I guess, you know, it's fascinating, isn't it, the way you've managed to reinvent the career as you've gone along, you know, from the pop star of the 70s to the songwriter in the 90s, television in the early 2000s. And now this is another reinvention, I guess, of the Mark Holden career. It
is in a way because... look, is it a reinvention? It's really a realization of a deep passion that I've had for a long time. I've wanted to do this for a really long time. I've wanted to do it for 20 plus years. But you know, you know, you've got to make a living. You know, I had Vanessa was a huge thing that took me away for years. You know, that consumed me for years, and it was a fantastic experience. I mean, just working with her was unbelievable. So, and we had hits in, you know, 21 countries. It was fantastic, but it took me away from this. And then Idol became a consuming thing, and then I got sacked from Idol, and then I sat on my ass for a year going, "Oh me miserum, what am I going to do?" And went back to the law at that point, and so that pushed it back again. And then I got cancer, and the cancer was great because it stopped me in my tracks. And when I was recovering, I just found myself sitting in my office listening to music. That's how I recovered. And I hadn't done that for a long time because music had been business to me. Vanessa, Idol, it was business. And because I had that year off, and then I had the year of study, I disconnected from the business. You know, so when I came back to music, it was not about business. When I came back to music, it was about the sheer pleasure of discovering Gillian Welch. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just the sheer pleasure of finding beautiful music that I hadn't heard before, and then revisiting old music, buying Sgt. Pepper, you know, buying the CD of Sgt. Pepper, buying the Beach Boys, you know, old records, and re-listening to those, but at the same time searching for new music. And I just found that you know what, I actually love music, you know. Wow. And I fell in love with music again, and then I sort of found a few of the pieces that we'd worked on with, you know, on those Tuesday nights with Dallas and Mick over at Roger Treble's place. And I refound those in, you know, deep in my computer, you know. I went, wow, they sound really good. Then I started to, I had met with Doug and Phyllis Ashton when I first came back from America in the mid-90s. I went out on the road with Doug and Phil, and Doug and Phil at that point were in their 80s. And they had 4 generations of Ashtons on the road at the one time. The Circus was huge. It was just before it collapsed because it got so big because all the generations got older and had kids, and they were all still together in one circus. It became economically impossible. But I got them just before that collapse, and travelled with Doug and Phil, and Phyllis you'd be sitting in the caravan with her, and she'd go, here's a kinescope. Oh yeah, what's a kinescope? Well, it's a kinescope is before they had videotape, they would film a television screen because they didn't have any way of recording it. So they'd film the screen, and then that was and so what was the first outside broadcast by Channel 9? A Circus, of course. And so there's this glorious piece of 1950s black and white television you know, that's Channel 9 at its best. You know, Channel 9 were the leaders then and were for many years in you know, big live television gigs, and it was the Circus, and it looks beautiful, and I've got docos, and then Mervyn pulled out, he said, oh look, I've got these reels of tape, of film that he took in the 40s and 50s and 60s on an old Ensoniq camera, and no one had seen them. You know, and they're breathtakingly beautiful, and I was able to use them, and Mervyn was kind enough. So between that and the Holden stills that I have, I was able to start thinking, well, maybe I can turn this into a visual project, not just a music project. And so I got caught up in the idea of it being an audio-visual product. What would it be? And so in the end I made 5 24-minute short films, and it's total self-indulgence, 110% self-indulgence. I did exactly what I felt that they should and could be, and had no one telling me what they should or could be.
But it's historically impressive, isn't it?
It's beautiful, yeah. Just the actual footage is so beautiful. And then the weaving of the songs in it and getting the family involved, every part of it was beautiful. Every part of it was you know, when people, you know, on reality shows say the journey, oh, it was the journey, and you go, yeah, up your bum, you know. But really, it was the doing of it and the making of it that was just so much pleasure. And you know, my son complaining about a mix, you know, or suggesting a different arrangement, you know, for the song. We wrote a song together. My son and I wrote a song together called Ramblin' Man, you know, and he had a particular view of how it should be, and just having that kind of conversation with my son was something I hadn't done, you know, for my brother and I used to do it when we grew up. We'd be sitting around and we'd just be talking about songs and bands and playing and that. But with my own kids, I didn't, for some reason. I guess I was busy. It's dreadful to say. But this was an opportunity to do that with everyone, and come over and have Cherie Goldsworthy, my son's mum, come over and set up her bass at the studio and her play the tracks. It was awesome. It's like, wow, she's a really good bass player. You know? It was great. And of course we had Bill Putt on as well, which is the late Bill. Yeah, the late Bill played on that same track, Ramblin' Man, and we of course lost Bill. And so having an opportunity to have Bill on film, you know, and in this doco, and see him at work and hear what he does, he's one of the legends, really. If any other country, Mike and Bill would be, you know, in the legend status. They'd be blues legends. In Australia, we just don't have that same respect, I don't think, for the elders of music. We do.
Absolutely.
I agree. That's it. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know, you can go to iTunes, do a search for Holden Brothers Travelling Circus.
That's it.
All the videos are up there.
Yeah.
Do check them out, and we thank Mark for dropping in and telling us the story here today at noise11.com.
Thanks, Paul.
Pleasure.
Cheers.